Good morning. It's a beautiful day. It's a day that we can use our our ability to and our power and our strength to be able to bring healing to the world. And so today I want to talk about fear. I'm just going to take a minute and let's together make a blessing and bring healing to those who need it. Bring love to those who need it. Bring joy to those who need it. And this is an amazing group of people. And you are incredible. You are amazing. And you have that ability to turn your fear, turn your rage, turn these challenges into strength. And that's what we wish. And Hashem should see that we are doing all that we can do to be able to bring healing to the world and bring that healing. There's a in this week's Torah portion, the portion of Shalach, it talks about a very difficult, a very strange episode. The episode of 12 spies who return from scouting the land of Canaan that will later become the land of Israel. And they frightened the Jewish people, the Israelites, from entering it. They frightened them. I want to read you what they said from the Torah. They said, "We came to the land you have sent us. And indeed, it flows with milk and honey. This is its fruit." They brought the fruit. "However, the people who dwell in the land are strong. The cities are fortified and very great. We also saw giants there. The Amalekites dwell in the Negev, the Hittites, the Jebusites, the Amorites in the hills, and the Canaanites at the sea and on the banks of the Jordan. We cannot go up against these people, for they are mightier than we." These were their words. Now just take a moment and think. This was not last week's Torah portion, and it's not next week's Torah portion. If you cannot see the connection, don't worry, we're going to talk about it. How incredible is it that this is the story of this week's Torah portion? For they are mightier than we. 75 times the size Iran is of Israel. 75 times the size. Goliath was twice the size of David. This is not a David and Goliath story. This is a David and Goliath story on steroids. So back to the spies. They spread a negative report about the land which they scouted, telling the children of Israel, "The land we pass through to explore is a land that consumes its inhabitants. And all the people we saw in it are men of stature. There we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, descendants from giants. In our eyes, we seemed like grasshoppers. And so we were in their eyes. Grasshoppers." The Torah continues and says that as a result of this, the entire community raised their voices and shouted, and the people wept on that night All the children of Israel complained against Moses and Aaron, and the entire congregation said, if we only had died in the land of Egypt, if we only had died in the desert, why does the Lord bring us to this land to fall by the sword? Our wives and our children will be as spoils. Is it not better for us to return to Egypt? Comes the Talmud and teaches us that the spies who were sent on the 29th day of Sivan returned after 40 days, and that day was the 8th of Av. And the mass weeping of the entire nation occurred on the 9th day of Av. If you don't know what that day is, I'll tell you in a second. And God said to them, you wept in vain. I will establish this day as a time of weeping for all generations. And that's what happened. The 9th of Av is the saddest day on the Jewish calendar, Tisha B'Av. It has become a day of tears and grief. It has become a day that we cry and mourn for the terrible calamities that occurred on that day throughout Jewish history. Jewish people have been crying on that day since. The temples, both temples were destroyed on that day, and there's about 300 other calamities that befell the Jewish people on the 9th of Av, on Tisha B'Av. Now, you know we can't just accept this. I have a big problem with this. Maybe you do as well. I think God's response seems unfair. Just because someone cries in vain, just because someone cries in vain, is this a reason to penalize them and make them cry over real pain for generations to come? Is this the kind of God that I want to be part of? Is this really my God? The act is incommensurate with the punishment. Just because someone weeps over a delusional misery, is that reason to take revenge? Is that the reason to make them suffer real misery, which would elicit real tears? What's the connection between the two? How could vain tears also warrant such a dramatic punishment that for all generations, this would become the night of tears and grief? This was my initial question. And then I found and looked deep inside my heart and realized that that's my narrative all the time. I automatically, when I hear something like this, I turn it into victimhood. It's not my fault. It's not our fault. But it's a choice. It's a choice that we could turn all of this into victimhood, or we could take this and we can turn it on its head. We can change this narrative and maybe even change our narrative and how we look at what happens to us and how we look at our lives. Because the answer is that this was not punishment. God was stating a prediction, and a natural one. God was attempting to explain to the people the tragic ramifications of their behavior. Your crying tonight in vain is what will cause you to cry for generations. Why? Why? Let's just change the narrative. We're putting it on its head. Follow me on this journey just for a moment. Why were the Jews weeping that night? Why were they crying? The spies came back and said what they said. Why was the response crying? Crying is a great thing. We need to let it out. But why crying? There's so many other emotions. It's because they saw a hopeless and a doomed future for themselves and for their children. They have been through so much. They finally made it out of Egypt, only to meet their cruel deaths upon entering the land of Canaan. This is it. This is what it all came to. We got freedom to be killed. But there's something strange here. I know your mind is wandering. Just follow me on this journey for a second because there's something strange here. In all of history, it would be difficult to find a generation whose lives were more saturated with miracles than the generation that left Egypt. Egypt, the most powerful nation on earth at the time, was forced to free them from slavery when the mighty hand of God inflicted 10 supernatural events, 10 supernatural plagues. When Pharaoh's army pursued them, the sea split to let them pass and drowned their pursuers. We tell this to our kids every year at the Seder. In the desert, miracles were the stuff of their daily lives. Manna from heaven, daily bread. Manna from heaven. Miriam's well. It was this miraculous stone that traveled along with the camp, providing them with water. The clouds of glory that sheltered and protected them from the desert heat, from the cold, kept them clothed, destroyed the snakes and the scorpions that were in their path. It flattens the land before them to ease their way. And above all of this, the people witnessed, the only time in history, the revelation of God at Mount Sinai, sharing with them the ultimate truth of existence. But for these people to doubt God's ability to conquer the quote unquote mighty inhabitants of Canaan seems nothing less than ludicrous. Why is this going to be any different than everything else you just saw? Why are you even questioning the God that took you out of Egypt, that split the sea, that brought you to Mount Sinai, that provided for the manna? Why are you questioning this God? Yet, this very people embrace the notion that we cannot go up against these people, for they are mightier than we, even mightier than He, than God. I want to talk about what this means for me and you. So if you're with me, follow me with this. And if you're not, come back and connect. Please, I invite you to. This is the disturbing power of fear. This is what fear looks like. It's not always rational. And sometimes it proves powerful, more powerful than all of your previous success stories. The fear may be baseless from a rational, from an empirical point of view, but it doesn't prevent the fear from paralyzing you, from freezing you in your tracks. Roosevelt was quite correct when he said, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself." This is what happened to our people on that fateful night of Tisha B'Av, of the 9th of Av. Despite all rational and compelling evidence that they can do it, despite the fact that God, the singular master of the world, has instructed them to do it, they were overtaken by fear, and they concluded that there was no hope, that the future was bleak, the future was cruel. They were powerless, and all they could do was weep, because that's a natural response when you feel powerless, to let it out, to cry. But their weeping in vain that night was not the reason for the punishment. It was the factor that revealed what might come in the future. They wept in vain because they didn't appreciate that God was with them, that God gave them the power to confront their challenges, that God gave them the power to overcome their obstacles. When you lose sight of your inner emotional and spiritual power, you become a victim to the forces, to the people who are beyond your control. And then you cry for real. Then there's really something to cry about. I was looking at Psychology Today. I saw an article about an experiment that was conducted some time ago by a Harvard psychologist. His name is Dr. Robert Rosenthal. And he conducted this experiment on a group of students and teachers that were living in Jerusalem. And this was the experiment. A group of physical education teachers and students were randomly chosen, and they were divided into three groups. The first group, the teachers were told that previous testing indicated that the students had an average ability in athletics and an average potential. And the teachers were told, go and train them. That was group one. Everyone's average. Go train these average people. Group two, the teachers are told that the students in their group, based on previous testing, exhibited unusually high potential, and had incredible excellence in athleticism. And then they were told, go train them. The third group of teachers was told their group of students had exhibited, based on previous testing, an extremely low potential for athletic training. Now go train them. The first group was mediocre, the second group was exceptional, and the third group was low. Now the teachers were given several weeks to work with and to interact with these student athletes. At the end of the training period, the results were the same for the male and the female students. And the results were also the same for the male and the female teachers. All of those students who had been randomly identified as being rather average in their ability to perform about average on tests, all of those students who were randomly identified as being above average performed above average. And all of those who were randomly identified as below average all performed below average by a considerable margin. The results of the test indicated that what the teachers thought of their students' ability was, and what the students themselves thought of their ability was, and went a long way towards deciding just how well they performed as athletes. Psychology Today took a special note of this experiment because it confirmed the physical arena of what psychologists had long claimed to be true in the educational and in the emotional arena, the concept of self-fulfilling prophecy. Students in classrooms, workers in shops, patients in therapy, they all do better when the person in charge, when the person in leadership expects them to do well, when they themselves expect themselves to do well. Our self-esteem, Our self-image, what makes someone think of themselves and thinks of themselves of what they're capable of, is an extremely crucial factor in deciding what can be and what we can make of ourselves. This is the way we see ourselves play an important role in the way others see us as well. I was blown away by this study. People always say self-fulfilling prophecy. It's a thing that people say. But to prove that it's real, the story that you tell yourself about yourself is real. The story that you tell yourself about yourself, others see that. You think that you're hiding it because it's just your thought. It's right on your forehead. Everybody can see it. It's real. I was thinking of the circus. I know they're not around so much anymore. But as a kid, I remember going to the circus, and I remember the huge elephants, these incredible, magnificent elephants that weighed several tons. And they were held in place by a small chain that was wrapped around one of their huge legs. And they were held in ground by a small wooden stake. If any of those elephants wanted to, they could walk right through those small chains. That small wooden stake, I remember thinking of it at the time. It was a joke, but they don't. They don't do it. Why? Because when they were little baby elephants, they were chained down in the same small chains with the same wooden stakes. And to them as babies, they couldn't move. They tried and tried and tried again. They couldn't release themselves from those chains. They couldn't release themselves from those stakes. And then an interesting thing happens. They stop trying. They gave up. They developed a belief system. And now, as adult elephants, they don't even try because they're programmed to believe that their efforts would be useless, in vain, in vain. As huge adult elephants, they don't even try. These circus elephants are held in prison by their beliefs. Can you relate? That's the story of the spies. And that's the story with us. We were like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and so we were in their eyes. Listen to the words of the Torah. They came back and said, we were like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and so we were in their eyes. And as a result, the nation wept in vain. The spies caused the Jews to perceive themselves as hopeless, as small, as futile, as grasshoppers. So they only came to believe that everyone looks at them as just grasshoppers, as so small. Everyone is just stepping on them. When you think you're weak, you become weak. And you believe that everyone considers you the same. Part of leaving exile, part of being worthy of redemption, is that we have to stand firm. We have to stand united. We have to be filled with resolve. We have to never capitulate. As individuals, as a people, as a community, We have to dismiss this sense of powerlessness. Have tremendous, tremendous power. We can rid ourselves, and we want to. We will. We will rid ourselves. We will rid our families. We will rid our communities of toxicity, of abuse, of falsehood, of deception. We can heal our world from confusion and deception. Israel, Israel can heal itself from fear, from the capitulation that keeps inviting more terror. Every one of us in our own lives can confront our deepest skeletons and work through them. This is the age of healing. This is the gift of our generation. We're going to break generational trauma. We're not only going to heal ourselves, as a result of healing ourselves, we're going to heal our families, we're going to heal our friends, we're going to heal the world. This is it. We are here. We've arrived. We can heal. And we just need to remember, because it gets harder. The more we try to heal, it gets harder. People want to keep us in our place. It's easier for them. It's more predictable. We have to remember that in every situation, we are empowered by God to create light out of darkness. Our job, our collective job, and we can do it. I know so much how we can. We can bring healing to the world. The world needs it. It's so obvious. But before we bring healing to the world, we need to bring healing to ourselves. And it's going to be a process, a long, arduous process. It's not easy. But that's what the world needs right now. It needs us. It needs us to turn our greatest pain into our greatest power. It needs us to change the narrative. We're not victims. We don't have to wait around for someone to rescue us. We need to step into our power, take control of our lives, and say, I am the rescuer. I'm here, present and accounted for. And that gift that we give to ourselves will end up being a gift that we're going to give to our families, to those around us. We're not going to be afraid. We're not going to cower. We're not going to hide. There's no need. The world needs us. Why should we hide? And that will bring healing and redemption to our world. So that Tisha B'Av, it says that when Mashiach comes, Tisha B'Av is going to be transformed into the grand and the greatest celebration, the greatest festival. I believe that. Because from the greatest pain comes the greatest joy. From the greatest fear comes the greatest healing. Because you know what it looks like. You know what the schmutz looks like. And when you know it, you can help someone else get out of their schmutz. The credentials of being a schmutz healer is that you went through it yourself. That's your credential. And I'm honored to be in a room full of healers. Those who heal themselves and those who are going to heal others. And Hashem should bless each and every one of you with the strength and the power to take all of this pain and turn it into healing. And I know that you can do it. I know that you can do it because I've done it. With that, may we bless that Israel should have peace, that the world should have peace, and never should we ever see any suffering again.